I'm going to do one more Maria question, and then my sister is trolling me in the comments. I have a question for her. So Maria asked a question in the comments: is learning scales important, and which scales there are so many? Andres actually did one of the first things we did together was a really awesome pentatonic scale lesson, in like an actual studio and whatever. But talk to me about this. Like, what do you do with your students when you're teaching? When do you start them on scales? Is it right away?
Yeah.
Do you teach them that they are playing scales, or do you teach them just melodic lines? Like, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Okay, that's a good question. I think everybody should know. All guitar players should know the major scale. I was supposed to turn that off. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, we all know it's 7:30.
The ghost in my machine here.
Yeah, man.
So I tell all of my students to learn the major, minor, and pentatonic scales because, as to Maria's earlier question about like sort of knowing the fretboard and knowing how to play bar chords in different places, the scales help you to know that. Like, not just to mindlessly play scales, but if I played a C major scale in open position, right? I can play it mindlessly, or I can like really pay attention to the notes. So I could say C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? And then I know those notes on the fretboard, and I'll always know those notes, and it helps me. If I try to play that scale in a movable position, all the notes are going to be the same, but I'm not using open strings, so I'll see my way around the fretboard. Let's say I do it here. Right? That's the do, re, mi, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So now I know two different ways that I can play this. And so it opens up my awareness of the fretboard, and that's why it's good. I don't think you should mindlessly play scales. And what I tell my students is, you learn these things to know the fretboard, but then what I do with my students is it's dependent on what they want to learn. So in certain styles of music, I don't know if it's really necessary to learn scales. I mean, I know that's probably a scandalous thing to say. And I also think scales can be a crutch if you practice them too much. So as you get really adept at playing scales, they can help you to know the fretboard, but they can also be to the detriment of your musicality. So I know, having grown up playing a lot of, virtuosic kind of heavy metal stuff, I could play scales really fast, but I wasn't necessarily making music. And sometimes knowing scales can actually hinder that. But as you're learning, I think it's a great way of knowing the fretboard and understanding where things are on your guitar. So definitely, if you want to understand your instrument, you want to figure out like a little bit of theory and understand the song that you hear on the radio to be able to pick it out on your own. Knowing major and minor scales at least would be very useful for that.